question, Jared. Go ahead and unmute yourself, my friend. I'll come down to you. Unmute. There you go. You should be good.
Hi, you can hear me?
I got you. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess one thing that I just had a question about is nearing, I love the meditation, but nearing the end of the meditation, when we have that idea of a seed of something that we may be struggling with or something that's coming to mind, and wrapping it or giving it appreciation.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Because I'm thinking about some things or maybe our own negative behaviors that come to mind. So could you expand a bit?
For sure. So great question. Sharon, that is not the RAIN practice, but I'll get you it. Yeah. Okay, so the question Jared asked there, so at the end, so in the non-judgmental awareness, where we're learning how to sit in what I will teach on probably today if I still have time, we're going to get more into witness consciousness and what that means to meditation. If I don't get it to it today, it'll be the first practice we do tomorrow. And so the witness is, there's so many different selves inside of the self, and you've known that, like not only in the way that you can be a father and a son, an employee and a boss, and aggressive and soft, and an inner child and an inner master. There's so many selves inside of the self that are activated at any given moment. And what starts to become dull and lifeless to the soul, to the beingness, is when we only get to exert a limited number of selves, of curiosity and creativity. And so when we're only seeing things one way, one vantage point, one perspective, constantly our own, I always see that as hard. I'm always hard done by it. I'm always not liking that. What happens is there starts to become this like both this lifelessness to the beingness, but there's also this like growing discontent in a way of not getting to really use the fullness of the mind and the perspective and the heart. And so when we're able to sit with things longer than our instant reaction, our instant opinion, and we're able to just sit, let me see. It's that famous Taoist story that I never remember, but I'll send it to you, where every time the farmer has something happen, whether like his son breaks his leg or his son comes home or his son goes to the military, the Taoist farmer is always like, let me see. And I know in my life that the hindsight of 2020 has been everything, because the people I prayed for, the things I prayed for, I'm so glad life knew more than my mind. But in the moment I made it like life was against me. But with a little hindsight and a little distance and seeing what it wanted of me and seeing what my life was asking of me, I was always able to gather the appreciation in hindsight. And so now to bring the wisdom on is, can I get it more in the moment from a more open mind? When I get into a different part of the self that says, even if it's hard, this moment is breaking my fucking heart. Even if this moment is breaking my fucking heart, when I can get into a deeper mind space that can just be with the ability to feel anything at all. Thank God I haven't gone numb. Thank God my life's not done yet. Thank God I was in love enough to get that broken. That open mind that doesn't just hit reaction first. This is who I am. I'm always left. This is what's happening to me. Then usually that ability to just be with it. Wow, I get to be with something's happening in my life that I get to feel. Just that can be a new self that opens up into the witness, that's able to watch a life and participate a life, not just have a life happen to you. And when I get into witness consciousness, I'm going to link back to that, Jared, but is that okay for just a preliminary response? Yeah, hindsight is an amazing thing. And that amazing adage that I find so true, that if you were, I live in Chelsea, New York City, so this would really work in a block like that. But that story that goes that if everybody on your block were to throw their problems out into the street, you would run like a mad person to get yours back. Like when you see what other people are dealing with, it's not that they're better or worse, it's that you're so equipped for yours. Your life has equipped you for your evolutionary problems, your, what my teacher calls your push, to push you to a deeper self, to know the self. And so sometimes just the perspective and the sharing lets us be with what is and then expand the experience to a grateful place. I'm going to come right to you in a moment, Kristen. When we look at, I pressed record. When we look at the nature of stress, what we'll say is somatically, that's how things are experienced in body. There are very few purely stressful experiences. They're really hard things. You know, this moment is one of them, and people are going through such enduring things. But what accumulates and starts to create the corrosive effect of stress. So stress accumulates and it becomes corrosive because it's acidic in nature. So stress eats cells. Your fight or flight response in your sympathetic nervous system, it is the gas in your car. It takes up the gas, the cells. Your rest and digest, it builds cells. So things are stressful, but what creates the corrosion of stress over time is not what happens, it's the resistance to what happens by the mind saying this shouldn't be. This shouldn't happen and I know what should. And what happens is that's not only stressful to the mental body, it's super stressful to the spirit body because it says this is happening and it shouldn't. And I know what should be happening. So now all of a sudden I am the universal. I'm this, call it what you will, this God figure, this divine figure. This shouldn't be happening. I know what should be. And then the amount of stress that accumulates, not from the event, but from resisting the event by saying this is bad, this is wrong, this shouldn't occur, I don't want this to happen. It's not that everything is Pollyanna and good, but it is. And, you know, my dominant teacher, Byron Katie, what she'll always say is like, if you're going to wage a war on reality, you're going to lose every time. And so if I can interpret her words, what it's saying is that if something's occurring, you don't have to like it, but you got to get on board with it because that's called sanity. And to say that it's occurring means I'm willing to look at it and be with it and feel it and hold it. And then once I've done that, then I can start to transmute it or transform it. But by saying it shouldn't be, I can't transform it because all my energy goes to resisting. He shouldn't be saying that. She shouldn't be angry. They shouldn't do that. Well, they are. And so now that fight against reality starts to accumulate more stress than to say, I don't have to like it, but I have to admit that it's occurring. Okay? The point of that, you know, you'll hear it time and time again. If you want grief and if you want depression, get a past. If you want panic, get a future. Okay? If you want depression, get a past. If you want panic, get a future. That is not to discredit real emotional and mental health that starts to destabilize. Those are real occurrences of a long relationship to depression and anxiety. And through my practice, I've learned to understand the nature of it and what it's wanting of me. And that state of depression that falls into regret, what should have been, what could have been, what I wish would have happened, if only this would have happened, is entirely in a story. Like I go here, like this is where the past lives, like it's left and future is right, but you got it. You know, that obsession of the mind to be able to go into a past experience and change it creates so much more dis-ease, discomfort that is necessary. To get a panic, to have panic and future, to have panic and anxiety, get a future, is to say like, right now, this moment is so good. I get to be with you all, the sun is shining, you know, I'm warm, I have enough water, I'm fed. But as soon as my mind projects into a moment I'm not in, then all I can do is run an extraordinary amount of stress and anxiety that I don't know how to metabolize. And I'm going to talk about that just next. I want to get to Kristen's question. You noticed your body experiencing sensations. You normally feel an emotion in your chest and anxiety, but the thought emotion wasn't there. Perfect. Okay. I so apologize. I just realized some of you send this to me privately, and I hope it's okay that I read your name to it. Oh, I'm making so many Zoom errors. Deal. That's always my answer, is just deal. You know? So the question there is, She noticed her body experiencing sensations that she normally feels with an emotion, so feelings in chest anxiety, but the thought emotion wasn't there. So what that tells me, that observation tells me, is that she did an extraordinary, and when I say this, it's not good or bad. I want to contextualize it for you. She had that moment I was talking about where she was able to have sensation without story, narrative, knowing what it meant. Okay? And so when that's the case, then what she's getting is a pure body emotional cathartic release. And so that sensation comes up. It could be a pain in the shoulder. It can be, discomfort in the low back. It can be tightness in the chest. And the ability to suspend knowing what's going on. Oh my gosh, that's that. Oh my gosh, I know that's. You have no idea what's being released from this library of the mind as it comes to the future. You could be releasing like grandma's worry from 3 generations prior. That's how stored this genetic code is. And so her ability to say there is a sensation, but it didn't have the emotion or the thought, means that she's both able to be with what is, and she's able to get the release, because the sensation has to come up to be felt, to be processed, to be released, without getting stored again as that is my anxiety. And so it's really the question that responds to the teachings I gave of being with what is to actively building a virtue. Does that make sense, Kristen? You can unmute yourself if I didn't answer it correctly.
Hi. Yes,
Hi.
that makes perfect sense.
Okay, good.
Thank-
And can you, now while I have you now, I'm just going to snare you. Can you give me, in your own words or your own experience, that when I shifted the meditation from non-judgmental awareness, being with what is, and then that gratitude at the end, can you give me a little of your own experience or clarification of what you felt?
I can. So right at the beginning of the meditation, just as soon as I kind of felt myself relax, and in my meditation practice, I know that I'm relaxed when I kind of lose sensation of my hands. It's kind of an indicator. So once I felt relaxed, I was noticing thoughts that were pretty just irrelevant, but I got this like very panicky, almost like the roller coaster feeling that I attribute to anxiety. If something happens and I get super anxious about it, it's the same kind of running feeling. And I got it for what felt like 30 seconds or something, but
Good.
there was no thought.
Good.
Nothing was there. And that happened kind of more towards the beginning. And then when you asked us to go into the non-judgmental kind of cueing questions to notice the thought and just like sit with the thought, what is, then I kind of moved into that practice. And then at the end with the appreciation, it actually was crystal clear, and that appreciation piece made me feel very emotional, but in a really good way.
Okay.
Almost like a compassionate way. But yeah, the physical stuff came up more towards the beginning.
Wonderful. So thank you for voicing that. So what Kristen voiced, better than what I could in that moment is the emotion was arising, and it was emotion that, whether it was of past or something she was previously experiencing, it just was. So to resist it and say, oh no, this is going to take me to anxiety. What do I got to do to go fix it? Then we'll start to accumulate it, because now all of a sudden there's a fight on. That's the enemy, and I got to fight it. But if you notice my response when she said the anxiety came up, my response was good. Because what'll happen is these sensations come up and people don't know how to be with what they feel. So they reach. Device, food, ganja, person, reach, get me out. So they reach for something out to get them out. But energy cannot be created or destroyed. First law of thermodynamics, it has to be transmuted. And so the ability to let it come up and not leave and not judge lets what was old anxiety clear out of her processors, lymphatic, emotional, digestive. That's how it clears. And so the ability to be with it creates the possibility to clear it. We got to feel it. We got to reveal it, to feel it, to heal it. I don't like to rhyme, but sometimes it helps. And so in that state where she was with it, non-judgmental. I was like, good, we're getting a release, like, oh, good, here it comes. It's not a bad thing, it's arising. And be with it as is. Suspend opinion. Is that anxiety? It's strong. Can I deal? Yeah. Can I stay? Yeah. Do I hate it? I don't know. I hate it if it's a story that I'm always going to be an anxious person and nobody will ever love me because I'm an anxious, terrible person and I'm a fraud as a teacher. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. But that's not what's going on. That's a bunch of past and future. Be with what is. Be with what is. Be with what is. And then what she said so clearly is that she was, and then it changed. She was, and then it changed. And that's what's so beautiful. It does that. As soon as we reach outside of ourselves, I reach for my phone because that's my addiction, then all of a sudden what was starting to release suppresses again. And then I'm going to have to, process it in my dreams or process it somewhere else. And, so what I taught in that meditation that Kristen spoke to was the first part, non-judgmental awareness, be with what is. And then the second little part of actively building a virtue was that, so hopefully some of you were able to feel that it's not wishful thinking. It's like this chemical exchange starts to shower through the body of fullness. The natural state of as-isness is fullness. Well, it is. Even, if a huge truck passed through here and I went to reaction that, oh, I can't meditate with a truck. It's too loud. I don't like that sound. Resist. It's not as is. I miss the beauty of how a sound vibrates in my inner ear and I can feel. I miss the beauty that that there's trucks, that they move, that there's movement, that there's gas, that there's transportation, that it's a truck. That's crazy, You miss the dynamic wonder of a moment because it quickly gets narrowed into whether I like it or don't like it. Okay. Is that Michelle Baker? Is that you? So happy to see you here all the way from Sweden. Quick question. Especially as of late, it feels much easier to have a longer inhale than a long exhale. Okay, I'll tell you why this is. It feels incredibly difficult to stay empty at the base of the exhale. I'll find myself pausing during the exhale before I can fully exhale. Does that make sense? Can I speak to this at all? Yes, of course. So if that's you, Mish, can you unmute? And then Zoe, I'll come to you after. Okay. Mish, are you here?
Can you see me?
Is it you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. How's Sweden?
Great.
Okay.
Feels like a whole different world than the rest of the world.
Oh, good. Okay, so here's what's up. You're going to hate to hear this. So the breath, as you know, Mish is an incredible breath teacher, so she already knows this, but the breath is the energetic signature of the emotional body. And so if you have children, all you need to really do is look at the quality of their breathing to see what's going on with them at a physio-emotional state. And so when the beginning of the practice, when I'm cueing you through those even breaths, I'm cueing the belly breath, that's to get your diaphragm moving. So when you inhale, so this isn't for you, Mish. Mish is a global breath teacher. This is for you guys. When you inhale, your diaphragm, this thoracic diaphragm, it goes down because lungs don't breathe on their own, so they need something to pull on them, okay? Like a balloon doesn't inflate on its own. And so the diaphragm, this beautiful muscle, it goes down. And when you inhale and it goes down, it's your primary breather, so that's its primary job. Your belly will go wide like a balloon in all directions, okay? And so when that's not breathing, then your intercostals and your neck muscles have to breathe you. It puts too much strain on the body. So when I'm cueing you first into the belly breath, it's to regulate your organs and regulate your nervous system so that there starts to be this when you look out at the horizon line of the ocean, there's that swell that starts to regulate liver and kidneys, which regulates every organ underneath of it. So when somebody is then moving into those breath patterns that I showed you, the even breath, that's going to regulate the hemispheres of your brain and your nervous system. And then the longer exhale, that starts to move into place your ability to move more stress. That's your parasympathetic. But then I say, okay, now just let your breath go. Don't touch it. Let yourself be breathed. It's so that whatever is coming up, you're not trying to control by controlling your breath. So when children are young and they don't have a lot of control over their surroundings, so parents are fighting, or their house is volatile, or, there's a lot of things going on in their outer environment, they can't really control their food. They can't really control their emotions yet. And so one of the first things they go to control is how much they feel. And the best way to control how little you feel is to limit the amount of breath you take in. And so then either they reverse the breath pattern, so the inhale goes, belly comes in, or they start to hold their breath or even hold their digestion. And so when we're moving into longer inhales than exhales, the body is, my guess, and this is just because I know you, Mish, my guess is this is less about you and more about the collective. You're taking on more. The longer inhale will cue the emotional upregulation of taking on more of surroundings or one's own, and then not letting the space around you support your let go. And so the longer exhale will usually feel like more of a depletion, like I can't take in too much life, I'm just giving away. Versus the longer inhale will feel like I can't regulate the amount I'm able to slough off and release back to source. So for those kinds of things, you're probably already doing them, Mish. You want, bare feet on ground. You want, sacral grounding practices that lets you feel the amount of support that can hold how much you want to emotionally hold the people in your community and the people around you. The longer inhale, you can even feel what that does. And so the difficulty to stay empty, it's not even the empty. My guess it's the ability to let go and let the space around you support you as much as you support the space around you, if that makes sense. Mish?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is that annoying?
Yeah, it's super annoying.
I know, right? It's always the same thing. Pretty much, Mish was with me in my yearly live-in, 2.0, our last conversation. So now it's so beautiful because once it's showing up in the breath, if it's being revealed to you, it's ready to start to really change. It'll come first as a pattern, and then it'll start to show up. Mine will usually be a rash, but some people's will be a breath or something. When it's really taking physical form, it's really ready to start to be released. And so for you, honey, because you're a breath teacher and it's showing up in the breath, it's pushing you to the place that's the most obvious to observe. That says okay, I can't do this anymore. Now it's affecting the primary communicator I have. It's never not creative, like that. Zoe, I'm going to send you all resources I have. So everything you guys got, I'll send you everything on Sunday. So I'll get to that question. I won't delete any of these questions. Okay. And then Juliana, do you want to unmute yourself real quick, please?
Hi.
Hi. You can either read your question or I can read it for you, but yeah, go ahead.
Kind of a long one, and not really a question. Well, it is a question because I'm really curious about your take on this. Basically, as I was unwrapping all the layers, first the usual suspects of just being oh my God, I'm so antsy. I can't sit here. Yeah. My stomach hurts. Why does my knee feel this way? Just the usual, bad feelings. I got to a place where I was noticing all these positive feelings, or at least what we would naturally label as positive, and feeling this exuberance of wanting to express something. I really wanted to move my arm or just experience beauty and pleasure. And at first I was oh yay, it's working. And then I caught myself falling into that trap of labeling something as positive or negative.
Great.
And how even just for a moment noticing that tendency just gave me so much more
space in my mind to be curious about what was really calling my attention, and how
Great.
the things that were making me really anxious and feeling bad were calling my attention to the same things as the things that were making me feel like really full of joy or happiness.
Oh, it's so not black or white, you know? People say black or white or shades of gray, but it's not. It's like in between black, which is the every color absorbed, or white, there's every single color there, right? And and so you say that so beautifully, and the suspension of judgment that opens up curiosity or an open mind to a new experience is in the practice of meditation. What we'll say when you really start to understand the nature of distraction. Distraction is a self-protection mechanism, and usually it's protecting us from something that no longer needs to be protected anymore. Okay, I'll say that again. And so some of the things where I'm like, I don't like that. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. I don't like the sensation. Those are old things that as children and growing up, when we had to build our defenses, build our primary defenses from our wounding patterns, then we had to create these sensations that moved us in like, dislike, good, bad. But we don't sit with them long enough in an updated, wise adult system to see, like, let me just check. Because it's an intelligent body and it's sending off signals. And if I just don't do whatever I want to do, or don't like whatever I don't like, if I just give it a sec. In meditation, what happens is distraction arises because something that we were otherwise avoiding because we couldn't deal with it at the time, or we didn't have the capacity to deal with it at the time, it's about to come to the surface. And so for experienced practitioners, as soon as a strong distraction comes, like, oh, I don't like this, I want out, that to somebody that's sat in their wisdom is the place where it's like, oh, good, get ready. Something good's coming, you know, because that heightened state, if you can just pierce past it, always it drops to a deeper level of awareness. But this practice is for the people that are willing to dig for gold. You know, you don't get it if you just want to hang in the shallows, because hanging in the shallows, you're just going to go for every little thing that's an open tab of excitement. But if you can just penetrate it longer, I don't like this, I don't like this, what is this? It's just sensation, it's impermanent, and I don't know. It's not trying to harden or hurt me. Okay, that little discernment, and then always distraction, poof. You know it in relationship. The fight is never what the fight is about. Ever. You know, the discord is never what the discord's about. Like, what it's about is never what it's about. I'm saying that terribly, but you get it. And so so we need a moment longer to just say, like, what's really up? And then if you can just stay what's really up in a relationship, always, if you can just stay with what's really up. Oh, you thought that? Oh, you needed that? Oh, you wanted me to hear that? That space of non-judgmental awareness. I'm not going to resist this. I'm going to be with it. That opening will take us into the quieter mind. But stillness and silence, those aren't just easily granted to anybody that, you know, just doesn't give them attention, because inside of them is the tenderness of the heart. It's the part of us that was wounded that we need to protect. It's not going to just let down its guard. We had to protect that at a nervous system level. And so it needs to know that it's safe. And what's not safe is hyperreactivity and opinions and judgment. You know it if you've lived with anybody volatile. And so if it's always like some chaotic emotion, opinion, and self-criticism and judgment, then it's not safe to then drop into the deeper space that opens. We stay guarded and protected, and that's genius. But why I began an entire 10 hours together with non-judgmental awareness is because what is the most, I could say this, what is the most hurtful and harmful thing is spending all of your time with somebody that is abusive, judgmental, and critical. You know it if you've ever lived with somebody, that if you've lived with an abusive person, you don't want to go home. You don't drop your guard. You don't explore your wisdom. You don't explore your intimacy and your deeper places that can't be protected. But now if your mind, unobserved, is the dominant abuser, it's so hard to get into your body to go home. And so the non-judgmental awareness, and why I begin with that, is when we can suspend this harsh judgmental knowingness, like, dislike, good, bad, then the inner wisdom, the inner stillness, and the inner silence can start to reveal after the self-protection starts to let go. Does that make sense? I've got you on the audio, so does that make sense just to you?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, thanks for using your voice. Laura, come on in, please. These next questions are long, so hi.
I was like, I didn't even know this is a kind of silly question, but
No silly questions.
I've been working with sort of non-judgment, kindness and loving kindness and compassion towards myself through meditation for like 12 years now, and I feel like I have like a fairly good handle on it. I'm able to apply it in a practical, measured way in the sort of day-to-day. So sitting and doing practices like this, and even when I've been sitting and doing my meditations recently, I find that it's almost this weird kind of quiet and then just like to-do lists. And even if I do it right first thing in the morning, it's just like very, very still, quiet, peaceful, and then just like, oh, I need to do this.
Yeah.
And I feel like it can almost be that I am just peaceful and quiet. It's almost like a dullness, I suppose, and then just, oh, I need to do this. And it's fine, just let it go. And I'm not getting myself into trouble or anything like that, but I feel like it's almost like a block, or I don't know if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I can. You'll hate this one too. So to-do lists are a really, they're not benign. They seem benign. Like, I'm sure if I asked all 75 of us, like, who gets, when you really let your mind go, who gets into a constant state of to-do list, they're actually not as benign as they seem. Like, it might just seem like, regulating a life of logistics. It's really deep and normalized control patterning. And so when she says it feels lifeless or it just feels dull, when I said, like, some of you are really experienced practitioners, but you're plateauing, then you need things like this to, like, engage or new information to say, like, wow, there's something I can't see that has, like, I'm so in my own control, I don't even know I'm in my own control. And what a to-do list at a really subtle place starts to feel like I'm in control of the future that feels so uncertain. And what I'm hearing so much from people right now with clients and such is, we're in such an uncertain time by nature of this global experience we're having. But what we're also in is a moment of honesty, that we never had certainty or control. We had a lot of structures that pretended it, so we didn't have to get control over the things we actually could have certainty over. And so rather than managing the thoughts you're thinking or managing the surrender of what has you, you'll go into subtle control techniques or lists that help you mitigate an uncertain future. And so the to-do list, you're just going to play with this when we hang up in your journaling of just this, where else is this feeling like I can control the emotions of others, the opinions of others, the experience of others to manage my emotional experience. And so lists, you kind of even watch the way they tripwire to codependency, the way they tripwire to a faith in God. Lists they're not a benign thing. They're really normal, but they have a lot of control in them. Like, I just got to manage the future. And so what happens is we begin to try to manage our emotional state in a future moment, mitigate risk and disappointment in a future moment, because we've lost the faith that we'll be able to meet it when it happens. I used to, like, run through the funerals of all the people I love the most because I'm a dark mind, like, okay, I'll be able to deal with that. Like, that's not called emotional processing. That's called catastrophic thinking. And so it's these dark ways we try to let ourselves know we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's an as-isness there, there's a controlness there, and there's a not trying to pre-feel.
Yeah.
Lists are trying to pre-feel.
Yeah. And what do you have any advice around that? Like how to? Yeah.
Yeah. So now, why the nature of the conscious mind is so genius is we'll get into the witness consciousness tomorrow, but as soon as something is seen, it starts to change itself. And so the advice I'd give for you for that, as soon as you start to notice list, don't go listing, go control. Label it control. And then watch, like when you've just labeled control, and then I'm trying to label external control, pretend external control, you just place it, label it, and then sit in the tenderness or sensation that comes up when you feel no ability to control the external. Let's go see what depth of emotion arises. You're going to have different emotion arises. You're going to have different emotion arising. You're going to have like, that's going to be a different breath pattern. And so you label it, and then you dive for the need underneath of it. When I get into the emotional body, I'll really explain that. I know we're going pretty deep, pretty fast, but I hope you guys are okay.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Okay, I'm going to take, I want to be sensitive of time, but I'd like to take Jocelyn. Jaw. Give me your jaw question, Jocelyn.
Well, basically, when we came out of both meditations, I noticed that my jaw felt very tight.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that leads to the anxiety that I often deal with. And I have a history of, I've worn braces when I was a kid. I have a history of clenching. And I was supposed to see a TMG specialist before all of this happened. And I have to clarify that I'm very nervous about talking and asking this question.
Okay.
But yeah, my jaw holds a lot. And I just thought, is it like a throat chakra thing? Am I blocked? Do I want to express something? Versus the second question was, should I just let it be?
Yeah. So such a great question. So thank you for being nervous and speaking amongst it. Because, and Rhoda, I'll get to you too. So that place that instantly wants to go fix it because it's labeled it. This is who I always am. So she felt tight jaw, and I'm going to use her as an example because I can relate and everybody can relate. But what you saw happen is kind of that long lecture I gave beforehand. She just played out so perfectly in her, 2-inch question that says, the sensation of the jaw comes up. I immediately go to the past where I've had jaw issues. I'm supposed to see a jaw specialist. This takes me to my anxiety. And then I go into diagnosing and fixing. So wait a sec. I don't yet know if it wasn't a clearing of the heart. I don't yet know if she hasn't been just like constantly talking and hasn't had just a chance to relax. I don't know yet. We didn't get information. We went into answers. And so because it wasn't met with non-judgmental awareness and curiosity, and let me just see that tightness, that is the body saying, I am working too hard. I am working too hard. I'm having to tense and prop against an experience that, if you wanted something to do, rather than going into diagnostics, past, identity, and future, how do I just sit with this tightness in an open state? To Gilly's question, whether an open-hearted state, just take out open-hearted, I'll get to that. An open mind, a curious, just open mind. Is it even true that it's tight? I don't know. I've labeled it. I'm now resisting it. I'm now pushing against it. And now the tightness that might have just been a release starts to contract muscularly because I've labeled it, I've become it, I've diagnosed it, I need to fix it. And so it will move, but it's not going to move the way you're trying to move it, because often when we try to move something, we get in the way of it moving itself. It's an extraordinarily intelligent form when we get out of the way. I 20 years of a daily practice is just getting out of the way, getting out of the way, getting out of the way, something's moving, getting out of the way. And so I'm going to link it back to, it's not what is occurring that's stressful or painful about the jaw, it's the resistance to it that says this isn't good, this is the past. And if we can just stay with it, what is this jaw? What is this tightness? You're trying to go too much into reductively diagnosing it. Maybe I'm not saying anything, maybe it's my throat, maybe it's not something that's wrong with you. It's just something that's occurring. And then when I get into the emotional work, it'll kind of add on to that as we go. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Okay, and so the last one I'm going to end on here. So I do want to remind you tomorrow. So I know I've talked a lot. I hope it's been okay. Tomorrow I'm going to be really practice heavy. It'll be, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes sits, and then I won't talk as much, but I really wanted to give context today. We're going to get into witness consciousness. We're going to get into witness consciousness and presence tomorrow, and then next weekend will be a lot on the emotional body. But what I do want to answer Rhoda's question here. Hi, Rhoda. Nice to see you, honey. Because it is very relevant to a number of you. What does it mean if I always fall asleep during meditation? Very good question. It means a couple things. One, might be exhausted. So if you are not sleeping deeply, then it might be an exhaustion. But there's two branches to the next part of this before I close this up. If you're falling asleep in meditation, the first branch I'll say is it might not be sleep. When we start to dip from the beta brainwave that's logistical and pragmatic and deals with the world to a low beta and alpha, you know that because right before you fall asleep at night, there's this little spike of brain chemistry where right before you're about to fall asleep, you actually will get like a burst of mind, random, weird, chaotic mind. It'll wake you up and then it'll drop you to sleep. If you haven't noticed it, you'll notice it now. And what happens is when we're dipping into meditation to the quieter brainwave state, sometimes like the head will drop or like we'll get one of those jolts. A lot of the superficial muscles are held up in certain brainwave states that says, this is who I am, and I'm a teacher, and I present myself to you. But when that identity role brainwave state starts to quiet, those muscles start to give way, those fast fire superficial muscles give way to like the slower stability muscles. And so it'll feel like we're falling asleep, but we're also just dropping into a lower brainwave state. That's branch number one. The second side is sometimes when we get so overrun with past emotion, past thought. You know those goats on YouTube that just like faint? You know those ones? If you haven't YouTubed that, it's real funny. Like they get so overrun with excitement, they just faint. And you've been with somebody in a relationship where they get so overrun by sensation, they shut down. More avoidant attachment styles. Or people that get so overrun by emotion, all they can do is just check out, like a schizoid defense pattern for those of you that know defense patterns. And so sometimes falling asleep is an exhaustion and it's not a lower brainwave state. It's a pattern of checking out that I get so overrun, all I can do is get out of here. And so what you want to do is if you know you're well slept, you want to sit the way you've seen, some people sitting on the floor without back support, to just make sure that I'm not using sleep as a way of checking out, that I'm just like able to deal with like this surge of emotion, this surge of past, this surge of shame, this surge of grief, this surge of, what I did wrong, this surge of my inner dialogue is coming. And rather than checking out, I'm just going to be with it. Oh, there's my self-hatred. There it is. Okay. So I'm not trying to quiet my self-hatred yet. I'm trying to be with it. There's my self-hatred. There's where I've turned on myself. Oh, there's that dialogue. It'll make sense tomorrow with this being as is, but it's so that all that stuff, I'm not using my phone or falling asleep or whatever is that mechanism to check out. Okay. So it's usually one of three things. Okay, so I am going to close this up there because I want to be respectful of your time. I hope that's a helpful first 2.5 hours. I know it's a lot of information, and that's us barely beginning. I want to, I'm going to copy all these questions and hold on to them because there's some I didn't get to, so I will get to them. Tomorrow, again, you're welcome to come in and come out as you please. You will be muted, but we're pretty much going practice, little theory, practice, so that by the time our fourth day is together, you've tracked a lot of time in silence. if you have some questions, you can either email me tonight and I'll approach them, or just write them down so you don't forget them, and I'll make sure I get to them. But we are same place, same time tomorrow. I really, I so appreciate you all being here. It wasn't as bad as I thought talking at a screen. I see like nice faces, smiling, that'll do. But I do want to hear from you too. So same time, same place. Sophia will send you the Zoom link 15 minutes before, because the studio is back-to-backing their Zooms. So you'll get it. And if you have any logistical issues, just text us, email us, and then you'll get all recordings by the end of it. Okay? So thank you so much. It's so nice to be with you all. And I'll see you soon. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. Ciao.
Thank you, Allie.
My pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks, Allie.
It's a joy.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's a good reason to unmute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To the birds.
Totally.
Yes, the birds.
Right? I'll give you the whole view.
Wow. Where are you?
I'm in New Mexico. I've got my dear friend Sinai in my apartment down there, taking good care of the plants, and I'm in New Mexico.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, Alice. See you, Alice. Yeah, pleasure.
Bye, Allie. Thank you.
Bye, my pleasure. See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Allie. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Okay, good. Me too. What a joy.
Bye, Allie. Love you.
Love you, love you. A whole global contingency here. Bye, Cordy's parents.
Bye.
I'm staying on just in case Alex got my message and wanting to see Zev.
Oh, I want to see Zev. Is Alex here?
Yeah, she's here.
Alex, I know. Let us see our baby. If everybody wants to stay on and see the baby, we're good. Let's see our boy.
He's coming.
Okay, good. Good. Everybody safe and sound?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got a message from Alice. Alice is winning quarantine. I've never heard Alice so happy.
I love quarantine. It's I have to contain myself because I know people don't like it.
Well, you haven't, you fly 10 times a week. It's so nice not to fly.
Yeah.
Right?
No, my period's regulated. TMI for the people that I don't know. But
everyone can deal. It's
Right.
just this is the most I've not traveled, and it's so nice not to be doing logistics.
yeah.
Sophia, did that go okay sound-wise and everything-wise? On your end?
Amazing.
Okay, good. I'm gonna copy. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm gonna copy and paste all the questions, the things I didn't get to. So I've got that.
Amazing.
But I think otherwise. Oh yeah, I'm gonna stop this too.